There is big breaking news today from the intrepid journalists at the New York Times. After an exhaustive, months-long investigation bringing to bear every resource the newsroom had at its disposal, the Gray Lady is reporting today that Joe Biden is a confused, doddering old man, and it's probably not a very good idea for him to be the president. Now look, I know this probably comes as a shock. It's a lot to take in, but damn it, as God is my witness, we will get through this together. And let's take a moment to give credit to the New York Times for breaking this very important story. We are all of us very fortunate indeed to have journalistic outlets of this high quality on which to rely, on the strength of whose reportage we can always unquestioningly depend, these venerable legacy media institutions that provide us, the poor benighted bumpkins out in the endless, trackless expanses of flyover country, with an intellectual lighthouse of sorts, a bright, shining beacon that calls out to us through the fog of Russian disinformation and says, "Over here, dear sailor, the truth is over here. Noble captain, let thyself not dash thy vessel on the shoals of gossip and conjecture. Steer thy ship this way instead, toward the safe harbor of an establishment-approved bullshit narrative, because it's just less dangerous this way." Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're just as shocked by this news as I am, for none of us had any reason to believe that President and semi-animated cadaver Joe Biden was not at the absolute top of his game, both mentally and physically. When he fell up the airplane stairs, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row, you know what I said? I said, I admire this man's originality. This man thinks outside the box. Anybody can fall down some airplane stairs, but to fall up, that takes a man of courage and of conviction. A man who says, oh no, I shan't be hidebound by the thinking of the past. This president is not content to merely fall off the airplane in the style of Gerald Ford, for I, Joe Biden, am an innovator, a visionary, a man who always rides the leading edge of societal evolution. So watch me write my name in the history books by falling onto the airplane instead. And when he face-planted off his damn bicycle right in front of the entire White House press corps, I don't think it occurred to any of us to wonder who thought it was a good idea to have this man operate dangerous machinery in public. Oh no, what we thought was, look at how environmentally conscious our president is. He saw a piece of litter on the ground, and without a thought, he dove headfirst to pick it up and take it to a designated receptacle for proper disposal. And when he ran an entire presidential campaign in which he didn't do much most days but shuffle out to his driveway and mumble nonsense sounds for 7 to 8 minutes, it never occurred to us that we were watching a demented, badly fading geriatric with one foot in the grave who probably should be residing in a memory care facility? Nope, not at all. What we thought was, look how responsible and conscientious this man is, saving up his strength for when he's president so he can attack the job on the first day with all the mental and physical vigor of a man half his age. There's absolutely no way a drooling dementia patient could engage in that sort of long-term planning. It is so damned inspiring. And when he began reading the stage cues off the teleprompter screen, did it occur to any of you that it was the result of senility and confusion? Or did you think, as I did, well, that's a very courteous thing of the president to do, giving recognition to the person who wrote the stage cues by saying them out loud. What a very nice man Joe Biden is. And then, when they stopped writing the stage cues on the prompter screen and began writing them on little tiny note cards instead, none of us, not a single one, saw that and thought, geez, this is getting pretty rough if the old guy needs written instructions for how to enter a room and sit down and say hello. And why didn't we? Because we are not a bunch of damned right-wing conspiracy theorists, that's why. We could see perfectly well that the president, he was just trying to be a job creator. So now there is a prompter guy and a note card guy. Everybody wins, right? What did you say, Jim Eagle? You say they've stopped doing the little note cards and they've gone back to writing the stage cues on the prompter screen? And he's begun reading them out loud again, just like before? You know, come to think of it, I think the New York Times might be onto something here. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where the uniform of the day will never be a ridiculous neon pink and green clown suit, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. I'm no longer a fan of baseball, as of this year, as many of you already know, because I will never tolerate the goddamn designated hitter in the National League. So, from here going forward, the only time I will ever go to the ballpark is the one night per season when all the people in my office go, and because I have to. That was this past Friday. One game out of the entire 81-game home schedule. And what did they wear? They wore neon pink and green clown suits. I'm not going to show you a picture because if you want to do that to your own eyes, that needs to be your decision. I don't want to take that choice out of your hands because once you see these clown suits, you can't unsee them. I don't know who this was supposed to be for. If I was a player, I would flat out refuse to take the field looking like that. As a San Diego Padres fan, I have seen some spectacularly awful-looking uniforms in my time, but beyond any inkling of a shadow of a vestige of a doubt, this was the absolute worst-looking kit that has ever been rocked on the field of play by any Major League sports team in North America. I know that is a bold statement, but I stand by it and I will accept any challenge to the veracity of that claim. And sure, maybe it's silly to open the main segment by bitching about something as trifling and unimportant as a baseball uniform, but I think it speaks to something larger and much more odious, and it's this epidemic that's been going on for some decades now, where someone shows us something ugly, and they tell us we're supposed to call it beautiful. When's the last time you saw a nice-looking painting from a current-day artist? Yes, I know I probably should make a Hunter Biden joke right here, but it's still early. We will get to him in good time. Now, personally, and maybe this is just my own crippling lack of cultural erudition talking, but I have never seen a painting in the modern art category in which I have found any artistic merit or even any aesthetic pleasure for that matter. The overriding principle in the modern art movement seems to be that everything should be ugly and it should require no talent to paint it. So you wind up with these multi-million-dollar artworks that look like somebody accidentally spilled a bunch of different paint colors all over a canvas, hung it up on a gallery wall, and called it high art. And I'm not the only one who has this difficulty in trying to appreciate what passes for modern art, because we've heard several stories in recent years about custodial staff at modern art galleries accidentally throwing things out because they looked indistinguishable from garbage, only to be promptly fired the next morning and told that they wrecked some precious, invaluable work of art. And what about modern architecture? When's the last time you saw a new building and said, yeah, that's a nice-looking building? It's been a long time, hasn't it? And isn't that weird? I mean, 90, 100 years ago, Americans were raising gorgeous, immortal buildings just as fast as they could be built in New York City alone. The Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building, and the Rockefeller Center were all started and finished within the same 5-year period, which also happened to be in the middle of the worst economic downturn in all of history. And have any buildings gone up in that city in the subsequent 9 or so decades that look as nice as any of those? Or in any other city? I can't think of any. We just don't build nice-looking buildings anymore. And I don't know who decided it was unfashionable, but the prerequisite in modern architecture seems to be first, make it ugly, and then worry about everything else. And what about modern music? When's the last time you heard a song with a melody that you remembered after it was over? Me either. When's the last time you heard a pop song with clever lyrics or a memorable turn of phrase? It seems like the most popular songs each year now consist of some mindless, computerized noise with some dumb, skanky woman rapping about the things she wants done to her vagina. And I wish I was making that up. I wish I was exaggerating. But we both know I am not. That is the actual state of popular music today. You just select one of your sex organs, scribble down some lyrics about what you enjoy doing with it, tell the producer to cue up the drum machine, and hit the crappy hip-hop garbage preset button on the synthesizer. And boom, there's your #1 Billboard single for the holiday season. Slap My Booty Like You My Daddy by Vicky Vagina and the Butt Plugs. Every little kid's gonna have the single in their stocking on Christmas morning, Mom and Dad, so don't you miss out. Now, none of the things we've talked about up until this point is any sort of recent development. Modern art has been ugly and unredeeming for far longer than I've been alive. Modern architecture has been similarly ugly and unredeeming for a similar length of time. Modern music has been ugly, unredeeming, and relentlessly vulgar since pretty much the start of this century. But there was still one untapped frontier for the forces of those who want to eliminate all beautiful, edifying, aesthetically pleasing things from public life, and that is the human body. That was the one area where, up until about 5 minutes ago, there was nobody shoving ugliness in your face and telling you, you have to think this is beautiful, or else you are a bigot and an istophobe and an agent of the patriarchy and whatever else they say. But they're really making up for lost time now, I think. If I had told you 5 years ago that in 2022 the cover girl on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue would weigh enough to play linebacker in the freaking NFL, would you have believed me? I wouldn't have believed that. But that is how quickly corporate America and the news media have all jumped aboard the ugly is beautiful and fat is healthy train. And again, it was up until about 5 minutes ago that for all of our cultural and political disagreements, there was not any controversy about what the ideals of female beauty and male handsomeness were. Once upon a time, liberals and conservatives, even during the freaking Red Scare, could all look at Marilyn Monroe or Gary Cooper and say, yep, those are our ideals of what an attractive man and an attractive woman are supposed to look like. And there was also never any controversy about the fact that being healthy is desirable, or the fact that healthy people are intrinsically more physically attractive than unhealthy people are. And when we talk about things that governments can or should do in the promotion of public health, we shouldn't be talking about mandatory flu vaccines and stupid obedience muzzles. What we should be talking about is things like maybe try to eat healthier and exercise more, and you can look more like this attractive movie star. That is what public health messaging used to look like back when it was about promoting actual improvements in the health of the public. But we all know how that story ends, since we have all had the misfortune of living through these past 29 months. But now we're not supposed to talk about any of that. Our public health professionals, who have really covered themselves in glory these past recent years, they tell us now that rather than promoting actual healthy living, we should be making sure that nobody ever gets their feelings hurt. Hurt feelings, it seems, are the real public health emergency here. So it is no longer okay, ever, to say to a friend or a loved one, you know, you look a little tubby lately. Maybe you should put down that box of donuts and go for a jog. If you do that, you are a body shamer and a monster. In the new, more enlightened world of 21st century public health policy, what you should be saying to that person is, you are so brave for having the courage to live as your authentic self. I admire so much the conviction with which you're pounding that box of donuts, and damn it, I would be honored if you'd let me run down to the Circle K and fetch you another dozen. But there was sort of a weird leftist civil war that happened in that arena, and it's pretty obvious that the body positivity crowd won, and the we have to ban big gulps crowd lost. But could you ever imagine a battle between two shittier groups of people, both of whose ideas are total nonsense? On the one hand, you've got the fat positive crowd, the people who demand that airlines cut the number of seats in half just so they can have 40-odd inches of clearance in which to park their fat, tubby posteriors. The people who think they are hate crime victims if they're made to buy a second seat because their belly rolls are spilling over the armrest like lava from a volcano. The people who buy some rickety little chair from IKEA and then angrily take it back to the store demanding a refund because it collapsed under the weight of their Rhode Island-sized ass. And on the other side, you've got the Mike Bloomberg crowd, the crazy hardcore social engineers who think it's the role of government to directly monitor your daily caloric intake and to take any remedial or punitive action that your irresponsible behavior might happen to necessitate. The people who think you and I are far too stupid to be trusted with a 32-ounce soft drink much less a firearm. The people who, if you gave them the power, they would be all too happy to tax you according to how overweight they think you are. The people who think every bite of food and every drop of beverage that you place into your mouth should be their business. I'm surprised there hasn't been more discussion of that Civil War, frankly, but then again, I suppose it's not all that surprising that a leftist fake news media would want to ignore an internecine conflict taking place on their own side. It was a thing I followed rather closely myself, but I'm still at a loss to understand how the body positivity side managed to win so decisively and seemingly all of a sudden. And so now, because of that victory, you get to live in a world where somebody calls you a bigot if you say a pretty woman is pretty, because that's not the way things are now. Only ugly women are pretty, don't you know? We need to abandon our old paradigms and embrace the new, more enlightened future. Remember every time you ever left a bar on a Tuesday night and the last girl in the place was a 280-pound butterface with a prosthetic leg? Well, my good man, she was actually the belle of the ball. She was the most gorgeous woman you will ever set eyes on, but you just couldn't see past your warped Western values long enough to give her the adoration that she deserved. And I guess since I am cursed by being a man of my word, I still have to talk about Admiral Hunter Biden, Nelson on the Delaware, America's second greatest naval hero after Admiral Dick Levine. It seems 4chan managed to hack Admiral Biden's Apple password, so now there's a whole bunch more stuff from the laptop that's been disseminated publicly, and I'm sure it will come as just as a big a shock to you as it did to me that most of the new material involves Admiral Biden smoking crack, banging hookers, and doing that activity that Woody Allen once famously described as sex with someone I love. Full disclosure here. I have never smoked crack, and I have never procured nor attempted to procure the services of a prostitute. But were I ever to do either of those things, I cannot imagine wanting to record video of myself in the act. And to me, that is the most depraved, most disturbing thing about Hunter Biden. There are lots of sloppy crackheads in the world. There are lots of guys who bang hookers. But I don't know if anybody in the history of mankind has been as committed to creating a permanent audio-visual record of his own bad behavior as this guy is. And that's my favorite part. When Joe Biden's defenders, the few who remain, every time more of Hunter's footage finds its way into the public, they go right back to the, well, it could be Russian hackers card. Now, we've talked about this before, but it seems like a good time to reiterate the point. If you're trying to frame a guy for purposes of damaging his reputation, you don't frame him for doing the same things he always does anyway. Framing Hunter Biden for being a crackhead who bangs hookers is like framing Stevie Wonder for being a blind guy. I mean, what the hell is the point? Also, I believe this was the first time in history when 4chan said, nope, sorry, this is too sick for us. And shit, I guess there's one more question that my curiosity won't permit me to not ask. So, it's one thing to be a raging crackhead. It's another thing to be a raging crackhead who bangs hookers. It's another thing yet to be a hooker-banging crackhead who creates a video record of all his various escapades. But Hunter, dude, you're backing that shit up to the cloud? Really? What is that, like the cherry on top of the cake of your infinite hubris? The same hubris that leads you to believe you can document your entire life of crime and depravity on computers that you abandon in random places while you're drunk off your ass and be secure in the knowledge that nothing bad will happen ever because Dad's going to take care of it like he always does. That Biden family is a real piece of work, ain't it, ladies and gentlemen? And to bring it back around to stupid, ugly things masquerading as art and stupid, ugly people masquerading as artists, Admiral Hunter Biden, America's second greatest naval hero and greatest painter in the idiom of blowing glitter through a Coke straw, he can tell you all about that, and we will leave it there for tonight. Thank you again to Caucasian Sasquatch for having me on his program Saturday night. I had a lovely time. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you very much for watching. See you Wednesday. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.